Hello, this is Congressman Bob Good, and I just wanted to take a few minutes and give you the good news from Washington and update you on some of the things that we've been working on, most specifically the legislative activities this week, the bills that I've introduced, and the things that we've been able to vote for in the new Republican majority. I introduced 5 bills this week, and these are actually reintroducing bills from last session, where now we'll have the opportunity to get those to the floor and to get a vote on those and to send those to the Senate. First of all, I introduced the Close Biden's Open Borders Act, which would take funding for the UN, $25 billion worth of funding over the next 2 years, and repurpose that to finish the border wall. The UN is utilizing some of the resources we send them to coach illegals on how to cheat our asylum system. Also introduced our nickel plan, my nickel plan bill, which would cut 5 cents of every federal dollar spent over the next 4 years until we get to a balanced budget. Thirdly, introduce our less is more resolution, which would say that when we members of Congress introduce a bill or try to add a new program, we have to cut 2 programs for every new program that we add, forcing us to prioritize and eliminate unnecessary programs. Fourthly, we introduce our Article 1 Regulatory Budget Act and our ALERT Act, and I'll just bring those together to say those would require an actual budget for federal agencies when we add new regulations, and it would require reporting to the American people on the cost involved in the new regulations that are being imposed upon the American people, which is driving up costs as well as causing a lot of burdens on our citizens. Things that we voted on this week, very pleased that we brought to the floor our Born Alive Survivors Act, which would just set the bar really low and say if a baby survives an abortion attempt, we've got to make every attempt to try to save that baby. And sadly, we were only able to get 1 vote. I think it was on the Democrat side, all Republicans, of course, voting for that. But that just have at least some minimum life protections. That's a first step. We need to go all the way, protect all life, and I'm glad that we passed that. We also passed the bill protecting the Strategic Petroleum Reserve from China. And what that's referring to is when the president has been depleting our Strategic Petroleum Reserves for political reasons, at a minimum, he can't sell those reserves to our adversary to sell it to China. Finally, I also voted to form the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government, which will battle against the Biden administration's efforts to utilize the federal government, our agencies, from a hostile weaponization way against conservatives or political opponents. Really dangerous for our country. So I'm excited about that select committee that's been formed. So all of this legislation we will be sending to the Senate for their consideration, and hopefully we'll get the Senate to pass what we've passed in the House. So thank you so much for the privilege of serving you here in Washington. Thank you for all of the feedback you continue to give us on how we can serve you better. And I look forward to addressing you again soon on the next time we give the good news from Washington.